Okay, so welcome back. We are going over this is 6.4 Ready Set Go number 10, and it just says write and solve a proportion that will provide the missing length of k. And so we're using that theorem that we used, and it had to do with when when a line is parallel to a side of a triangle. Do you guys all see my triangle here? Right? If it's parallel to a side of a triangle, then it cuts the sides proportionally, and you can write all kinds of proportions. The easiest way for me to show you the proportion is actually directly on the thing. It already wrote it for you. So does everybody see 2 over 3 equals k over 8? So I'm just going to write that over here. And then how do I solve this for k? How do I solve this for k? You don't have to cross multiply. In fact, in this case, if you cross multiply, you added more steps to you. So look at the k side, like ignore that left side and just look at the k side. What's happening to k? What's happening to k? And you're like, oh, it's being divided by. Good. So what's the inverse of division? What's the inverse? Yeah, multiply. Good. Multiply by what? 8. And so if you notice, 8 divided by 8 is 1. So sometimes people will cancel it out like that. And on the right side, all I have is k, which I really like because that means I'm done. So if I multiply by 8 on one side, I'd have to do it to the other side. And then if you remember multiplying fractions, it's top times top and bottom times bottom. So that's 16 over 3, which is about 5.3 with a hat on it, right? So I like it as 16 over 3 because that's a more exact answer. So I'm going to write it over here, which is about 5.3, and see if that actually makes sense. So I say yes, it makes sense because the 2 is smaller than that 5.3, right? Just like that 3 is smaller than that 8, right? So yeah, I agree with this. This looks good. Everybody okay with that? So just writing that proportion is going to help you understand. All right, your turn. You try number 9. And you guys are like, no, it's fractions, Miss Johnson. Treat them the same. Treat them the same. Treat them the same. You guys are finding it. I see it. Good job. Ooh, someone says, I think the proportion is 2 over n equals 5 over 6.5. I agree. So 2 over n equals 5 over 6.5. Now here, this one actually makes sense to cross multiply. But for those of you who, I'm not a huge fan of cross multiplying. I'm just going to be honest with you because it's a trick instead of you understanding what you're doing. So if you understand how to multiply by the denominator, that's exactly what we're going to do here. And if you understand multiplying by the denominator, then that's where cross multiplying actually comes from. Okay, so excuse me. I'm going to multiply by n on this side because n divided by n is going to give me 1. So if I multiply on one side, then I'm going to have to multiply it on the other side. Okay. And I don't like that 6.5 denominator, so I'm also going to multiply it by 6.5. Okay. And then so if you notice the 6.5 divided by 6.5, that divides to 1. So does n divided by n. So then now I'm going to simplify. I got 6.5 times 2 is 13 equals 5n. Divide by 5, divide by 5. N is 13 over 5. And then I put that in here, and 13 over 5, in case you don't know, is, what is that, 2.6? It's 2.6, okay? So to me, this makes sense because the 2 on the top is much smaller. It's like less than half of 5. And 2.6 is also less than half of 5. So they're cutting things proportionally. Does that make sense? Okay, let me see if there's one more problem we can go over. me see. Hold on. What did they want you to do? They just want you to write similarity. Let me see something real quick. Let me look at your test. The only other one that you'd have to do, let me see, can I find one? Is I'm just going to remind you when we did number 7 of the one that we found with Z. So your Z in proportion is going to be written if you write out your triangles separately. So that's the only one that you'd actually have to write out separately because it's coming off the fact that those two triangles are similar. So when I ask you to find like one of the sides that's parallel, you're going to have to draw out your two triangles like this, and then you can draw in your proportions, right? Like I think we did y over 7 equals to y plus, where's my z? Where's my z equation? I don't have a z equation. I don't have a z equation. Let's find z. Okay, looking at your pictures like this, which again came from that picture, the big picture, can you write an equation that would help you find z? Can you write an equation that would help you find z? That'll be our last one for today. And then we'll start our quiz. Oh yeah, someone asked Miss Johnson, does it matter if you write it as a decimal or a fraction? Because they're equivalent, no, it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you my preference. As a mathematician, I like, what do I like? I like exact numbers. So I'm looking for z. So your equation has to have a z in it. Very good. Someone wrote y over z equals to y plus 10 over z. So do you kind of see me? I don't know. It's going to be kind of funny. So ignore me if this, do you see me going like this? You see my weirdness right there? So let me solve that for you guys. I'm going to go over here. Y over z equals to y plus 10 over z. Oh, this is a 7. Y over 7. I keep saying that. And then we already figured out that y was 27 over 4. Well, we did figure out not z. We did figure out z. There it is right there. Z is whatever that is, 9 plus 40 thirds. Yeah, so we did figure that out. So there you go. I thought we already did that. That was weird. And then, so if you ever get an equation like this, you would want to make sure you had all your variables except for the variable you're looking for. So over here, according to us, we got 27 over 4. So then you can erase that. And whatever 27 over 4 is, what is that? 6.75. Miss Johnson, decimals. Or you can use fractions. It doesn't matter. Right? Whichever way you want to do. So make sure that whenever you're writing these proportions, that the proportion actually makes sense. Right? Any questions on this? So if you were to pick something on the test and say, okay, but this is the part that I'm probably going to mess up on, walk very carefully around that part. Right? I think you all will do really well on this section of your test.